Time for another edition of the Improbability Engine, and we're going to talk about a lot of things here. Actually, since we didn't do it last time, and I felt kind of bad about skipping it, we'll start with our moment of, what?
Yeah, a picture came to light recently that shows the President of the United States saluting a North Korean general. That's all.
Okay.
Offered up without any commentary whatsoever. That happened.
Yeah. This also happened. One of the president's aides was talking about the great relationship we have with Germany and used as an example the D-Day invasion. Really happened.
Today we're playing ombudsman.
Yeah.
Is that how you say that?
Yeah.
That's what we're doing. We're merely pointing this stuff out. That's all we're going to do. We're just going to point it out. You fill in your own gaps.
Fill in your own
Fill
gaps.
in your own gaps. Our job is to just tell you this happened.
I think you want to talk about soccer.
I do. The World Cup is coming back to the United States and Mexico and Canada. In 2026, the majority of the games will be played in the United States. And of the cities selected in the bid, Nashville, Tennessee. Now, I've gone to two U.S. a U.S. men's national team game and a professional soccer game down in Nashville. They were fantastic. Of course, anybody who's been down to the Coliseum knows that it's a great venue to watch sports. It's fantastic. It's a lot of fun. They're always done well. I've been a part of the two largest soccer games by attendance in the state of Tennessee. I watched Manchester City versus Tottenham, and I watched the U.S. versus Panama in the Gold Cup. So, it's a great thing. It worked in spite of interference by the Trump administration. I think it's awesome that it's coming back. I think that soccer is a sport that is growing much faster compared to some traditional sports.
I will say this. And
first, let's put a disclaimer as ombudsman. Will is not a fan of soccer. He's just not. He loves lots of sports. He could watch women's softball for hours and love every set. He is a rabid WNBA fan. He knows more about the WNBA than most people affiliated with the WNBA. The man knows the game. He loves watching it. And he's not doing it to pander. He really just enjoys the game. That said, he does not like soccer. Men, women, on horseback, in a gym, on roller skates, doesn't matter. He doesn't like soccer. Please
you could almost do a Dr. Seuss version of that.
Right. Will does not like them in a chair. He does not like them anywhere.
There you go.
Now that we've made that abundantly clear.
I will only say this.
Yeah.
I have a friend who has a grandson who has played soccer for years.
Yeah.
He can't dribble a basketball, and he can't throw a rock or a baseball because soccer doesn't teach eye-hand coordination. And I'll just leave it at that, and we can move along.
My counterpoint to that is, I know of a fish that can't climb a tree. It's obviously not a good athlete.
There you go. Moving right along, there were those who said 24 years ago,
right,
when the World Cup came here,
yep,
that it would make all the difference in the world and soccer would be all the rage in the United States. And there are people who ridicule that.
Yeah.
The truth is, and I don't know that you can attribute it to the World Cup coming here in 1994, soccer has grown exponentially in this country in the last 24 years.
Yeah, you can look at that. You can look at 1994, and really the immediate lead up to that, you can look at that as a watershed moment for soccer in America. Pre-1994, soccer was a nothing sport. NASL and professional soccer aside, it was not. I mean, it was not making a blip on the national radar in 1990, 1988, 1987. Post-1994, there was a change. You had the birth of the MLS, which is the professional league here in the U.S., which is still going strong. It's had some growth. It's had some fits and starts, but it is doing very well. There's an MLS team coming to Nashville. Louisville has a USL side that is among the best in the country, and the fans turn out in droves.
They really do.
I mean, holy cow! Well, Louisville's a great sports town. So let's just kind of put that out there. Louisville's a great sports town. They just love sports.
That's true. That's very true. But they sell out those USL games.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, everybody's kind of known that sports in Louisville is just a great thing. It's a town that they love horse racing, they love basketball, they love football, they love baseball. You could put a hockey team in Louisville and it would draw. I just truly believe that. Louisville's a great sports town. You're going to get higher turnout numbers in Louisville than you would any other city in the country their size. I just truly believe that. That said, they've got a marketing plan that works. They've got a really good team, a good coach, and it's fun. I mean, they make it fun up there. They bought in. It's the city's team, from using Louisville's, the regalia of the city of Louisville in their uniforms, using the colors and the fleur-de-lis and all the things that you want to see. It's fantastic. It was just done right. Tip of the cap to those guys. I mean, that's how you do it. You don't put a hockey team in Atlanta and call them the Thrashers and expect it to be okay. I'm just saying.
Speaking of Louisville, we were up there for the Preakness and for the Belmont Stakes. Went to Churchill Downs, and the attendance at Churchill Downs was good on Preakness Day. It was incredible on Belmont Day. The place was jam-packed, and it was really good to see that. And, even though I bet against him, we wound up getting a Triple Crown winner in Justify.
Yeah, and you are the horse racing expert of the two of us. Of course, that's not all that difficult. I don't know the difference between a gelding and a furlong. And quite frankly,
one of the horses running when we went this past weekend for the Belmont, now she was running at a different track.
Yeah.
The horse's name was She's a Gelding.
Okay, you got to kind of tip your cap. That's a good line. All right, so getting back to horse racing, second Triple Crown in 3 years, right?
Yeah, that sounds right.
This, the Belmont Justify runs away from the field, right? A la Secretariat. Is that correct?
No.
Secretariat's third race wasn't a runaway?
Well, Secretariat's third race was a runaway. Justified didn't run away from the field.
It didn't run away from the field. All right. No. So I didn't watch the race because, frankly, it's horse racing.
It would have taken 2.5 minutes.
It's 18th century NASCAR, Will. That's all it is. It's 18th century NASCAR. And this is so sad, when a horse blows a tire, they kill the horse. That's the difference between the two. That's all that we've come as it comes to, hey, let's see how fast we can go. Before it was, let's get on a horse. Now it's, let's get in the car.
You're not really from Kentucky, are you?
I am, actually. No, the big thing to remember when it comes to horse racing is that now, I look at horse racing the same way I look at boxing.
Okay.
It gathers national attention really once every 10 years. That's where we're at with boxing nowadays.
That's not where we're at with horse racing. It gathers national attention every year. The Triple Crown races draw huge crowds, and they do relatively well in the TV ratings. Breeders' Cup Day is always a big deal.
Is that gambling, or is that people who actually care about horse racing? Because
gamblers care about horse racing.
I get it.
You can't
Gamblers
differentiate.
also care about blackjack, and they also care about baccarat. These are not national sports that people go into.
But horse racing is. It's televised nationally, and boxing isn't.
For what means, though? If it's just a gamble, then it's just one thing in which to gamble on. The biggest thing that I want to see from horse racing, you've had the pinnacle of your sport in 2 out of the last 3 years. I want to see what that does to the popularity of horse racing.
Oh, people who think it's going to change anything dramatically are insane. Back in the 70s, you know, when Ruffian was a superstar and they were trying to get her owners to agree to a match race with Foolish Pleasure, the pitch was, it'll make the sport really popular again.
Right.
Okay? And no single event like that is going to have that kind of an effect.
Right.
Horse racing is what it is, and you either like it or you don't.
Right.
And really, in order to bet on horse racing and have any chance of success, it requires knowledge. It's not like playing slot machine.
No, it's like playing blackjack.
Similar in a way.
Knowledge and understanding.
It requires knowledge and understanding, and it requires research.
And luck. There's still luck involved.
I would say that the best comparison is like playing stock market.
Okay. Well, and I can look at that and I can see that comparison. I have nothing against horse racing, but the thing that horse racing is, it does not connect with me and my lifestyle in any way, shape, or form. I mean, the Derby Day. So for people in Louisville, Derby Day is a holiday.
It's a holiday for me and my family.
I know it is. I know. You've got hats. I've seen your hats for Derby Day.
I do not have a hat.
You've got a hat that has a big curly Q thing on the top.
No.
You look like a Who from one of Dr. Seuss books. It's okay. It looks good on you. I've seen the outfit. It looks great. You look fine. The fact that Marilyn puts up with that kind of stuff is really a testament to her. I swear she's going to be beatified before this is all over. I'm just putting it out there. That being said, horse racing to me is it's an anachronism. You know, 100 years ago, people had horses. They could look at their horse and say, "Oh, wow, that horse is awesome. You know, my horse is fast. But that horse is really fast." You know, you might actually have somebody with a horse coming out of nowhere to win. Now the idea of a horse coming out of nowhere is, well, they only own 15 horses and 12 paddocks in Lexington, and they've only been doing horse racing for so many years, and the trainer's he's only ever won the Arkansas Derby 4 times, so he's only ever won the Louisiana Derby 5 times.
That's hyperbole and exaggeration and not true.
When was the last time a horse with no bloodline won and actually was something that everybody knew?
Horses with no bloodline aren't allowed to race.
This is the problem. The barriers to entry are too high.
No, that's nonsense. Moving right along.
Like I said, he hates soccer. He loves horse racing. I introduce you to Will Aubrey, man of the 18th century.
I do love horse racing.
Love horse
I do. But I found out something alarming when we went to Churchill Downs this last time.
Okay.
There are apparently limits to my charm.
Well, you knew you'd find them eventually. One would never expect a horse track would be where they would be found.
I tried to talk my way into the turf club. and these ladies, they smiled, they laughed, and I got them really close, but they would not agree to let me into the turf club.
You know what? You've got to do something pretty incredible to do that. You got to give them a convincing story. So what was the story that you used?
Oh, it was just personal charm.
That's all you used?
It was just, you know, it's really sad, but we can't find a table, and it would be really nice if, you know, we could go up to the turf club, and, you know, she responded that she wasn't permitted to allow me, and I said, okay, you tell me then, what would you do if you needed a table? And I almost got her there, but she said, yeah, if I let you up, they would just send you back down. So
the problem is you've got to give them a name. You've got to be like, no, My name is Will Aubrey Day. I am related to the famous jockey. I haven't been up here since, and then you got to go really in.
What I should have done, and I didn't think of it, which is alarming as well, I should have just said, well, if they send me back down, that's fine. Just let us go ahead and go up. And,
at least I'll get to see it.
At least I'll get to see it, see what it looks like.
Right.
I mean, who knows? That's what I should have said.
I'm willing to take that chance.
Yeah. But,
Well, if you weren't wearing a hat, they probably weren't going to let you in, Will. I mean, that's just how this stuff works. You in a bow tie and a hat, because this is all about. I mean,
one note for Callaway County football fans.
Yeah. Football season's right around the corner, by the way.
The Lakers are not going to have to return that game against Pikeville.
Oh, thank God. You know what? Whenever I heard that game was scheduled as a home and away, I'm not going to lie, I was distraught for the players, for the coaches, and for the families. That is an incredibly long drive.
Now, Pikeville was not happy about it, but the new coach at Callaway just said, hey, we're not coming. Sorry.
Can't do it. I mean, we would love to. We can't.
And instead, played Fulton County.
Yes, that's a good pickup.
Yeah.
That's a good pickup. Now, I don't know if you've seen talking about high school football, Ombudsman. The thing to notice is they've done some rearranging and realigning with football. Fulton County is no longer in a district. They kind of float. They're not single A. They're not single A first district. They still get to compete. They're still sanctioned, but they're in a sort of a no man's land where they don't get to go to the playoffs. And all told, not a terrible thing for Fulton County, as they've had a lot of struggles getting enough players to field a team. But one of the areas that I think that Kentucky could actually find some inspiration is actually from the state of Texas. Now, in Texas, there is a very robust system of 7-man football. Now, 7-man football is basically 11-man football with less players. You learn the same things. You're playing against other teams that are similar to yours. You can make 7-man teams all day long. And smaller schools, that take some of the pressure off. If anybody's interested in 7-man football, look up Throckmorton, Texas, and their 7-man football team. They're incredible. And it's not like that they don't get kids who get scholarship offers. Some of those kids actually go and play college football out of 7-man.
It's real tackle football.
It's real tackle football. It's just there's fewer guys on each side. And therefore fewer guys you have to travel with, fewer guys you have to have pads for, fewer guys you have to have insured, and fewer guys you have to come out and play. I mean, let's be honest, that's a big deal.
Yeah, and this is odd, perhaps.
Mm-hmm.
When I was a kid playing sandlot football, we always played tackle. We never played touch football.
Right.
Did you guys do that?
We played both.
Okay.
If we were next to our house, there was too much gravel, and so we'd play touch. Now, the touch was still rough. It wasn't, it was two-hand touch, but it was more like two-hand shove.
Mm-hmm.
If we were able to go someplace where the grass was good and thick, we played tackle all the time. I mean, wasn't even what that teaches you. It teaches you the correct form, because you're not going to do anything that hurts you trying to play. You're not going to play tackle football.
Yeah, you're not going to spear someone with your head.
No, that's silly. You don't do that. You put a shoulder into their waist and you try to wrap their legs up.
Now, we had a kid get a broken collarbone once while I was playing, but I mean, that stuff happens.
Yeah, there was actually not one of my prouder moments. We allowed a girl to play football with us, and we were playing tackle football, and we tried to warn her, but she seemed totally okay with it. She got tackled and broke her arm. I felt bad about that for years, but it was a clean play. It could have been me.
Yeah.
I didn't want to explain that to my dad, but it could have been me that had that happen to us. So all that stuff kind of happens. I mean, as a kid, we did all kinds of stuff like that. Though. I mean, we'd play wiffle ball or we'd play stickball, and we'd also throw a baseball and hit it in the backyard. Now, we knew there's a real chance we're going to break something. No two ways about that. You just learn real quick.
Take the consequences.
Take the consequences.
Yeah.
Even when you don't want to.
Yeah.
So anything else going on? What's going on with big news in First Region basketball?
Yeah. Zion Harmon decided to transfer to Marshall County. He averaged 32 points at Adair County last year. He is regarded as one of the top 10 sophomores in the country.
Yep.
And he's trying to reclassify as a junior.
Right.
Now, so far, he does not have any offers from really big schools. I think he has offers from Tennessee and Vanderbilt and Stephen F. Austin.
St. Louis just offered.
Okay, yeah. St. Louis. And his dad wants an offer from Louisville or Kentucky because he wants to stay in state. Yeah. The thing that I'm thinking is he's going to be 20 minutes from the CFSB Center. Maybe he'll become a Racer fan.
You know what?
And this is point guard U, and despite averaging 32 points, he's a point guard.
Yeah. The thing that I'd like to see, and this is not me advocating for breaking any NCAA rules, so if this comes afoul of the NCAA rules, always follow the NCAA rules. That's just how that works. So I would like to see him come to a team camp. Come to Murray State team camp, have Coach Birdsong. It's only going to help the team.
Right.
But to have him work with John Morant, who is, quite frankly, might be considered the biggest miss by the big schools in the past 10 years. There has been, this summer, he played in a summer league down in his native South Carolina against guys who were going to South Carolina, Clemson, bigger schools. And the word out of that camp was that he was the best player there, bar none. He did stuff that was just, his team won the championship, he hit the game-winning shot. I mean, all the stuff that you look at and say, oh, okay. Now, there's been talk that it wasn't great competition. I don't know anything about that. I do know that there were college-level players playing there, and his team won the championship. At some point, you're playing somebody who can play. But to have him go and become a mentor to a guy like Harmon, who's also a skilled point guard, who's also, very good and feels under-recruited, as Ja probably did his senior year, that can only help Murray State.
Indeed. And another Murray State note, I was very pleased to see that Matt McMahon, the head basketball coach, Alan Ward, the athletic director, and Velvet Miltman, the legendary women's golf coach at Murray State, all got contract extensions.
I'm going to say something that shouldn't be controversial. If there is a coaching Mount Rushmore for Murray State, Velvet Milkman has her spot.
Absolutely.
Holy crap, what a coach. I mean, my God.
Let's talk about that for a minute. That's a really good subject, a coaching Mount Rushmore for Murray State. I think Velvet has to be on that, and Benny Purcell has to be on that.
Yeah, and you can look at Benny and see his wasn't just one sport. Now, he's known for being a tennis coach.
Right.
And a really incredible tennis coach at that. But he was also an assistant basketball coach for a while. Yeah, I believe he coached a little baseball as an assistant. This is a guy that was there and was Mr. Murray State. You've got to put those people directly on the Mount Rushmore.
Who are your other two?
Johnny Reagan probably has to be on there. Baseball coach for years and years. One of the greatest coaches to ever come through Murray State of any sport. The fourth slot's much more difficult, I think. You could look at a guy like Cal Luther. You could look at, any number of these guys. The problem with looking at basketball and football is that, generally speaking, basketball and football, the tenures are short. If they're really, really good, they go someplace else.
That's true.
And that makes it more difficult.
To me,
yeah.
If you're looking at basketball, I can see the argument for Cal Luther, but he did not win an NCAA tournament game. I would
True.
look at Steve Newton, Billy Kennedy, and Steve Prohm, and I would probably go with Steve Newton.
You know what? It's funny to look at that because you look at when you look at a guy like Cal Luther. Cal Luther was at Murray State for years and years and years, and built the program from the NAIB era into the NCAA era. Really, I mean, he transitioned them in. He made sure that they were still playing with the big boys. I think he made it to one NCAA tournament in his career at Murray State, which is quite small. And I think if you look at Steve Newton's record in the postseason is much better. I mean, you want to talk about a guy who who just kind of did everything. I mean, he did a lot of good stuff, and really kept Murray State in the national lexicon. I don't have a problem looking at Steve Prohm or Billy Kennedy. I just look at those guys and I just see too short of a tenure.
That's my problem.
That's the only negative that I got with him.
I mean, Steve, he was here from 2011 through
Right.
2015. Billy, 2006 through 2010. So I guess that's 5 years each.
Yeah, I mean, which is good. Don't get me wrong. For those guys, some of the most successful years in Murray State history.
I'm thinking Newton was here maybe 6 or 7 years.
Yeah, he was here for a good little while. I don't know, that fourth spot is still up for grabs, I think. I mean, as I look for it, I can't see one guy separating themselves. You've got to stick around for a long time. You've got to be really successful. But if you've got 3 of your 4 are Velvet Milkman, Johnny Reagan, and
Benny Purcell.
So there are a lot of championships right there. A lot of all OVCs, a lot of wins. It's hard to argue against those 3. That fourth one's still kind of up in the air. That's a tough one to call.
I'm going to throw you one more.
Okay, what you got?
Okay, not athletics related,
Yeah.
not Murray State related,
Ombudsman.
although it could be both.
Yeah.
Mount Rushmore for the city of Murray, Kentucky. Who do you go with?
Oh, famous Murray Kentuckians, huh? Boy, that's a really tough one. That's a good question. The problem is you automatically try to go towards some of these actors, actresses, stuff like that. I tend to lean away from that. I don't know. What do you have? Because I'm curious to see where you're going with it, and I want to know. At this point, I'm having trouble making that leap to say, oh, that person definitely belongs in Mount Rushmore.
Well, it's a difficult question. You could make an argument for somebody like Rainey Wells.
Probably wouldn't be a bad one to have. Certainly was an impact at the state and regional level. Certainly. I mean, you can't argue against that.
And you could argue for Benny Purcell.
First All-American at Murray State was Mr. Murray State for a long, long time.
You could argue for Mel.
Absolutely. Coming out of Murray High School, going and playing the World Tennis Tour and beating some really big names and doing it.
You could argue for Velvet.
Wouldn't be crazy to think that. I mean...
Now here's an off-the-wall choice.
Okay.
She's not from Murray per se.
Okay.
But from the Murray metropolitan area. Jackie DeShannon.
Not a bad one. Now, for those who don't know, from Hazel.
Yes.
Famous singer-songwriter.
Yes.
More singer than songwriter, but had some songs that she wrote that were very good. That's not a crazy one to put on there. I think if you branch it out to Callaway County, I think that's a no-brainer. I think it's an absolutely positive thing to think of.
Earl Brown.
Earl Brown. The thing with Earl Brown is he's difficult because I still foresee 20 years of him being at the height of his profession as an actor. This is a guy who was on the #1 television show on TV during its entire run. That's a big deal. I don't care where you're from. That's a big deal. I mean, and you could argue for the Molly Sims of the world, and you could, I mean, that's fine. It's okay. It's fine. I just don't know. I don't know exactly how to put it in there. Honestly, if I was going to pick one, there is one guy that I would want to bring up. T.R.M. Howard.
Never heard of him.
If you get a chance, look him up. Now, it's so his story is very unique. From Murray, Kentucky, grew up in Murray, and black man.
Okay.
Grew up and worked at the hospital under the Mason family, when the Mason family owned and ran the hospital. Dr. Mason took him under his wing, paid for him to go to medical school, became a doctor. Later became a leading figure in the early civil rights movement, and as such, worked with Medgar Evers, worked with guys like the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King. Lots of guys owe something to T.R.M. Howard. If you get a chance, read about T.R.M. Howard. I guess if you're going to look at some of those guys, if you're going to start saying there's slight connections, then you could probably go to Billy Lane Laufer, who won the Congressional Medal of Honor, although he grew up in Arizona, I believe. There was an astronaut.
Well, I would...
There was an astronaut who was born in Murray and grew up as a young child in Murray, but went to high school in Oklahoma.
I would prefer a stronger connection.
That's kind of my take on it as well.
Like, for example, I'm a voter in the Kentucky Sports Figure of the Year balloting, and they allow you to vote for anybody who spent even a year playing a sport in the state of Kentucky. So a lot of these one-and-done UK basketball players are... Which don't make any sense
because they're only a microscopically tangential...
And I never vote for them.
Yeah, so I'm going to look down... I'm going to look at Wikipedia on this one. And these are the people notable people, according to Wikipedia. So take that for what it's worth. Ombudsman. Shane Andrus. Had a cup of coffee in the NFL. Good kicker. Went to Murray High School. Actually a really good guy. I grew up with him. Lee Allen Baker, an actress who's was on recurring roles in Charmed and Will and Grace, and is an actress on Good Luck Charlie on the Disney Channel.
Okay.
W. Earl Brown.
We talked about
him. Gordon Cooper is the astronaut.
He's from Murray?
Gordon Cooper. Now, this is what I was talking about. So he was born in Oklahoma, but he went to high school in Oklahoma. He moved to Murray, Kentucky about 2 months before graduating in his class in 1945, before he was called up in service. And then he graduated from Murray High School. Okay. That's his connection. Tenuous. T.R.M. Howard, born in Murray, Kentucky, grew up in Murray, Kentucky, which I think is his name was Theodore Roosevelt Mason Howard. Okay. And he adopted Mason. So that's mine on there. Billy Lane Laufer, Congressional Medal of Honor winner, was born in Murray, Kentucky, but grew up, spent most of his life outside of Murray. Tim Mastay, Super Bowl winning punter.
I would probably take him over the other football player, Shane Andrus. But
Forrest Pogue. Now, Forrest Pogue is a really interesting one because he wrote, as a historian, he wrote the preeminent book about World War II. He wrote some biographies that were extremely well received. He was a preeminent historian of the Second World War.
And he has a library named for him.
And he has a library named after him. And the thing that he's born in Eddyville, went to Murray State, graduated from Murray State, later came back and taught at Murray State, died in Murray, Kentucky. Okay. So you want to talk about some connections there. That's a good connection. So Forrest Pogue has to be on there. Nathan B. Stubblefield.
Okay. That makes sense. And He probably has to be on there, actually, even though I didn't think of him initially.
I think of the problem with Nathan B. Stubblefield is it all comes down to what you consider the definition of radio, and that's difficult for me to kind of quantify.
I would say close enough.
Close enough. All right. So Clint Brooks, a very famous literary critic, went to Murray State. It actually has, outside of Faculty Hall, it has a sign, a historic marker that has his name on it. He developed this idea of new criticism.
Okay.
Was a good friend of the writers of the age of the 1920s and so on and so forth. Chris Thile. He was the host of Prairie Home Companion now, but he was a member of bluegrass group that came out of Murray. At any rate, he's
okay.
Got to be mentioned, although not from Murray. Yeah. Jerry Crutchfield, a country music producer.
Okay.
Gene Graham, Pulitzer Prize for National Reporting in 1962.
Well, that's a big deal.
That is. That's the list that Wikipedia.
Okay. I'm going to throw a name at you. If we're going with Pulitzer Prize winner, she hasn't won one yet, but she's been nominated twice, and that's Elizabeth Johnson. She was a student at Murray State as recently as the 2011-12 basketball season, and she is a tremendous writer. She was nominated for a Pulitzer Prize. One of the times she was nominated was for the work that she did, getting a man who had been falsely accused and was on death row, getting him exonerated.
Oh, that's incredible.
And she now works for the Southern Poverty Law Center. I'm extremely proud to say that she's a friend of mine, and very proud of her. Absolutely.
No, that's one that goes way up there. I think, honestly, if I'm looking at it, I look at that in a way that, it's more than about being famous and having a connection to Murray. When I think of who do you name a school after, hypothetically speaking, they merge Murray and Callaway school systems. They're not going to call it Murray or Callaway County. Who do you name the high school after?
Yes.
That's who I'm looking for.
And I'll throw one more name at you.
Okay.
And it might, I'll just throw it out there. Donna Herndon. She's Miss Murray as far as I'm concerned.
Oh, absolutely. And anybody who knows, the funny thing is, anybody who's ever been in Murray and been around Murray and done anything in Murray knows Donna Herndon.
Yes.
I mean, when you say Miss Murray, she knows everybody, and everybody knows her.
She has a smile for everyone.
Absolutely.
One of the kindest people you'd ever want to meet.
Yeah, and fantastic people.
Fantastic. Yeah, she's involved in the community in all kinds of ways, and huge supporter and fan of Murray State athletics.
Absolutely, yeah, and you've got to have that. You've got to have that support, and you look at somebody like that makes a difference. That makes the community a different place. So, I think that's the biggest thing to go for. I mean, it's difficult to understand the criteria, and then it's really difficult to make the selection.
That's true.
But if you get a chance, check out the history of T.R.M. Howard. It's a really interesting. It's one of those you go, why don't we have a statue of this guy somewhere?
Okay. That brings to a close this edition of the Improbability Engine.